This video is a continuation of the previous video about Vertex Painting. In this video, I will demonstrate how you can use Vertex Paint inside your projects. But before getting started with the actual examples, I want to highlight that new functionalities have been added, especially for large geometry. The default method, the vertex or the triangle method, kind of get laggy when we got like a big guy of 6.3 million that we're painting in real time. And since the next version will have reduction data available, we can then use that vertex data to accelerate the vertex paint. And how to do that is very simple. We select our object and we go pull it from the library. And inside the preview, we have the reduction here. And if the reduction already exists, we can simply restore it from disk, or we can simply build it. And once we got that reduction data, we're going to be able to use that acceleration structure as a picking method for Vertex Paint. So I am going to launch my Vertex Painting for this guy here. And now under method, I have access to auth3. And auth3 will, based on the reduction data, will drastically speed up the painting of large geometry at 6.3 million triangle geometry here. And also added on the version slider here, we got the option now to lock version control. So if we are going to be able to directly paint without keeping versions that can take, especially for 6.3 million triangle, it can take quite a bit of memory. And we also have the option to clear that history amount that is stored in memory, or lock, if you want, the version to a current point in time. With that said, we can now process and go by the example. So I am simply going to invert here. And if I have an overview of the little scene that I prepare here, we are going to observe multiple methods that you can use Vertex Paint inside your project. The one that you will be using probably the most is going to be mixing materials together based on a specific color. So in example here, I got my wall. And if I enter Vertex Paint for this guy, I set that if I am using a pure red on my first color layer here, it's going to blend between my brick and the plaster. And since we have access to up to 4 color layer by default, it means that you can blend technically up to 16 materials together, considering that each color layer have a RGBA channel. So for this one, it's on the first, and I set it to be a full red. So what is going to happen as I start painting, I am revealing the actual brick that it's under. And that will allow me to create some sort of damage or worn off effect, just like that here. And after that, what we can do is we can have like a quick stroke here, and we can refine that to have a more realistic effect. If I go search, like an example, the smear brush and start smearing it slowly, we can really see a better transition between the actual brick and the plaster, increasing the level of realism for our effect. So that is it for mixing materials. I hope this gives you an example and the possibility that you can do with them. There's another one that we can use Vertex Painting for. It's animation. So an example, now if I select my grass here, which is this guy, if I run and if I quit the Vertex Paint for a second and start the playback here, we can see that now nothing is really moving. The way I code this specific shader is if we have I'm going to restore back to mix. And the way it's working is if I put an example, let's say that I have a full one here, and I'm going to use the fill color to execute, we can see that now I am running a animation based on the amount of color, red again, by the way, that it's applied. So this doesn't look too realistic. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lower it down, put it somewhere like around 20, and I'm going to repeat the operation. We can see that now it's probably more realistic, but all all those blades of grass are just simply moving the same way. So the idea is to use the alternate color, which is a full black, to actually pin some of them to be less wiggly. So by going like that, and if I go on my material here quickly, and I turn on the grass, if I select it here and click on automatic, I should have access to it. This is the grass, and I'm going to enable vertex color so I can display the vertex color here. And back to painting, I am simply going to stamp some black. If I stop, I'm simply going to stamp some black using my alternate color. And we can see what is happening here. I'm just going to go quickly and just tap, 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 tap. So like that, it's going to avoid having the same kind of animation on each and every blade of grass. And you can see as I pinpoint them, it's hard to pick that little grass here. As I pinpoint them, you can see that the gradient kind of fade, and that is going to allow me to have some blades of grass that are moving more and some others move less, which would give me at the end, after doing this, a more realistic effect. Once it's done, we can see that we got a different gradient, different coloring between white and black. That is going on. And if we now restore that and enable our color map and we start the playback, we can see that now if we're going on the ground level, we got way more realistic effect, as these blades of grass don't necessarily move all at the same pace with the same frequency. So this is another possible use case of using Vertex Paint for controlling animation from a vertex shader. Now, if we move on to the other one, we got on this side here a little river moving, and this will also allow us to create flow map using Vertex Painting. So I got my river that is here, and on the side here, I want to have some sort of foam that is going to appear and is going to blend with the flow of my river. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go select my water plane that is here, and I'm going to go back to Vertex Painting again, select mix, ensure that I got a full white because I want to simulate some sort of foam that appear on the side here. And all I'm going to do, I am going to simply brush where I want this foam to appear quickly, just like that. And using, once again, the smear brush, I will go, and a combination of smear brush and erase brush, I will simply go lighten the edges here. And of course, this can also be used with another external texture. And as in material, as we have seen how to mix material, we can also use that same technique to mix a foam material, PBR foam material, or any type of material using the color. And like that, we end up with a relatively realistic river shore that can be, of course, adjusted with a bit more time. But you got the idea of the kind of effect that you can achieve using this kind of technique. And on top of the mixed material technique, you can achieve some very good realistic result in no time. The last but not the least is displacement that can be used in two ways, basically. I am going to select my ground grass. That is the ground plane. How did I name that one? Ground terrain. It must be that one. So this one is using, again, in a vertex shader, the color to drive the actual displacement of, if I select mix, the actual displacement of each and every vertex. So this can allow me to add extra detail on the terrain. Take note that this cannot receive any type of collision detection, as it is purely an effect that is driven by the vertex shader itself, that is displacing the actual position of the vertex, but it is not in any way applied as a real vertex. It's just an effect that is done. It is not, cannot be used as collision. And if we get access to that material, we can also, if I select that guy, we can also change the amount of elevation that we have here. So we can achieve different type of effect, adding more details on terrain texture, probably areas where the player or NPC cannot go. And the last one now we have used to elevate vertices, but we can also go the other way and push vertices. Like I got this kind of snowy surface here. And if this time I am pushing using the opposite color, I can simulate steps on snow or snow trail. Enable the vertex color on this. I can generate footsteps. This is pretty rough. And, or trails that are directly in the snow, just like that. And I can even do that at runtime, which in example can be restored after a specific amount of time. Like in this example, also using the elevation, I could also use the erase brush to make it smoother on the edge here, or using my main color to add, an example, more snow, erase some snow, or use the alternate color to start digging inside. If we restore and fill back, everything go back to the original position of the snow that we have here, which is a bit too elevated if we got something like that. So I hope this gives you a good overview of the type of technique that you can apply inside your project using Vertex Painting.